Welcome back to another week at From Vision to Legacy. I'm your host, Erica Marie, and this week we are going to talk about setting boundaries. Okay. Boundaries are essential to your journey. Why? You might be wondering. Because they protect your time, your energy, and your focus, right? Which are critical. They're all critical to building a sustainable legacy. Without clear boundaries, okay, you risk burnout or being overwhelmed, overworked, right? Inefficiency, so not really making much progress, not getting much done, right? And neglecting your priorities, your family, your business, your legacy, your personal growth, your professional growth, whatever your priorities are, right? Because your priorities are going to be different. They're different for everyone. All right. So let's talk about well, before we jump into boundary setting, I want to tell you something, okay? Do not set a boundary that you cannot enforce. So the best boundaries you can set are the ones that you are willing and able to enforce, okay? And also, communication is key when it comes to boundaries because if you don't communicate them, right, then they don't exist. But we'll get into that a little bit more in this video. So, types of boundaries that you should consider setting. Okay. There's going to be four different categories, right? So the first one is going to be time boundaries, right? These are going to protect your time. So maybe you have a simple boundary could be dedicated working hours or designated times that clients or customers can contact you, right? Maybe you have dedicated hours for work and then you have dedicated time for your kids each day, right? So it's a time boundary that's business and personal, right? So from these hours, I'm all work. From these hours, I'm all family, right? Or during these hours. Um, Another type of boundary, financial. Yes, financial boundaries are important too, because you need to understand or you need to know, right, when to say no to certain opportunities because it's going to negatively impact your journey or your legacy building, your generational wealth building, right? If it's going to negatively impact your finances, you need to know how to say no. Every opportunity that is presented to you, you do not have to act on it. Learn how to be very picky about what you invest in, right? If it's not supporting you and where you're going and what you want to do and your priorities, don't invest in it. I know this from learning it, right? I made plenty of investments that didn't align with me because I thought that's what I needed at the time. And it's a learning process, right? So don't get down on yourself if you make a bad investment because it happens. It's life. But you can learn to identify the investments that are best going to support you, okay? The ones that align with who you are and where you're going, that align with the vision that you have. I'm gonna be honest, all right? If generational wealth building and a lasting legacy are not in your vision, you should not be joining Build Your Legacy. Yeah, I said that. Don't join it because it's not going to align with you. That's not where you're going. That's not what you're working towards. Don't invest in it. If that is where you're going, if that is what you're working towards, if it does align with you, then you can join. And there's also tiers, right? There's three different levels you can join at. So look at what's included with each level. Look at where you are in your journey. I actually have a quiz that you guys can take. It's on my website. So the link's in the description. I'll make sure to put the link in the description, right? You can take the quiz and figure out the best tier for you based on where you are in your journey. That doesn't mean you have to join at that tier if you're thinking of joining, right? But it gives you an idea of where you are on your journey. So if you are unsure, like what level you're at right now, if you're in the beginning stages, if you're in the middle, or if you're more advanced, take the quiz. It's 100% free, right? It's called the Legacy Builder Success Scorecard. But not only does it tell you like what level you're at in your journey or where you are in your journey, it also gives you actionable tips for things that you can do to help you continue to make progress, no matter where you're starting from, no matter where you are right now. Okay. You'll get some key takeaways from taking that quiz. It's 100% free. The link is in the description. Go ahead, take it. Now, moving on, right? So, we talked about time boundaries because we need to protect our time, right? Something as simple as dedicated office hours. We talked about financial boundaries, knowing when to say no to certain opportunities or investments, right? But also knowing when to say yes is another boundary. You can be like, okay, I will only say yes if what I want to invest in meets these requirements, right? Have some requirements for it. If it doesn't meet it, then the answer is no. Yes, that's a boundary you can set, right? All right, so the next category, let's talk about business boundaries, right? So, business boundaries. You need to have boundaries around your business, not just what hours you're working, right? But how clients communicate with you, when they communicate with you, how quickly you respond, right? These are boundaries. What hours they're allowed to call, when they're not. If you don't want them just calling whenever they have to schedule a meeting with you, right? Assuming you're working with clients, that's a boundary. Set that boundary and enforce it. But remember, only set boundaries that you can enforce, that you are willing and able to enforce. Because if you don't enforce it, it's not a boundary. If you're not going to enforce it, it's not a boundary. If you don't communicate it, it's not a boundary. I know. So if you only want them to be able to schedule calls, like if they need to schedule time to talk with you, that's a boundary. Communicate it, right? And these are just ideas. I'm not telling you what boundaries to set. I'm just giving you examples. I'm giving you ideas, and I'm telling you the types of boundaries to consider. But ultimately, the best boundaries for you are going to be the ones that you can enforce. Similar to what we talked about last week when we were talking about building habits, right? The best habits to build are the ones that you're going to stick to. The best boundaries to set are the ones you're going to enforce, okay? With no hesitation. Um, And last but not least, some personal boundaries, right? You need to protect your mental and emotional well being. So, if you have time that's dedicated during the day just for you, find a way to protect that time. Communicate it to others so they don't disturb you. Put your phone on silent, right? Lock your door. Whatever you need to do to make sure you get that time for you, do it. Even if that means putting it on your calendar, right? Also, another boundary that's kind of like goes into the whole mental and emotional well-being is learning to say no to the things that drain you. Start only saying yes to the things that give you energy, that fuel you, and say no to the things that are draining or that you don't want to do. Like maybe you don't want to go out with your friends that weekend. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you just want to spend time with your kids, right? Or maybe there's a baby shower or, a niece or nephew's birthday party or something, and you just don't have the energy to go, it's okay. I've missed out on some, right? We have a lot on our plate. Let's first acknowledge how much is actually on our plate and then decide how much more we're willing to give. That's going to help your mental and emotional well being. I guarantee you. You can say no to things. Um, I can't come. I really don't feel good. I don't have the energy. However, we could do this, right? Offer an alternative. Like if it's hard to set a boundary or to enforce it, right? And to make it easier, because I had to do this in the beginning, right? If I said no to something, the guilt comes. And this is a challenge that comes with boundaries, right? There's guilt, there's fear of disappointing people, right? There's fear of disappointing yourself sometimes. What I learned to do was if I would set a boundary, like if I declined an invitation, okay? This is a very specific example. If I declined an invitation, I would suggest another thing we could do at another date. Or I would be like, I can't come, but I can do this, right? So I can't come to the party, but I can get him a gift. What gift does he want? Or what gift does she want, right? Um, I can send some money on Cash App, whatever, right? I gave them an alternative when I had to say no because saying no was really hard for me. I'm a recovering people pleaser, right? So saying no was something that I never did. It took a long time for me to start building up the courage to start saying no. And it was easier when I had a middle step, right? When I said no, but I gave an alternative. Like, I can't talk to you right now, but give me about an hour and we can chat. I can't come today, but I can come this day. I can't come to this event, but I can do this, right? So, the biggest thing, like I said, is making sure that you communicate those boundaries. So, whatever boundaries you set, communicate them. Let the people around you know. Anyone who's going to be affected by that boundary, communicate it to them. Okay, let them know, hey, this is what I will accept. This is what I will not accept. This is when you can contact me. This is when you can't. What it doesn't matter what your boundary is, right? That's why I'm just using random things, saying random things essentially. It sounds random, but it's not, right? So you can call me between the hours of 10 and 12, right? But you cannot call me between 2 and 4. No, these are not actual boundaries that I set. They're just examples. So, another one, right? I will not be disrespected. You cannot disrespect me. If you cuss at me, I will no longer speak to you. If you disrespect me, I will no longer speak to you. Right? So there has to be consequences for them not respecting your boundary. If there's no consequences, guess what they're going to do? We're parents. We know what our kids do, right? They test it and test it and test it and test it until they can figure out how far they can get with that. How far can they push you past that boundary before there's consequences? Kids are like that, right? Have that same mentality when it comes to setting your boundaries. Another way that helps with setting boundaries, this helped me, right, is that you need to have non-negotiable boundaries, so boundaries that you won't budge on. And then give yourself some flexible boundaries, ones where there's a little bit more wiggle room, right? Like, okay, I'm not gonna work past 5 p.m., but some nights I might work till 6, right? Or I'm gonna always go and be in bed by 10 p.m., but on the weekends I'll stay up till 11 or 12. Those are boundaries and habits kind of together, right? Sort of. Um, but having those non-negotiables and flexible ones will help too, especially if it's harder for you to set boundaries. Maybe it's something you've never done, right? So know what boundaries there's wiggle room for or that you can bend a little bit, right? Depending on your mood. Because just because you bent it one time doesn't mean you have to bend it every single time, right? So just because you push the limit and work till 6 today doesn't mean you have to do it again tomorrow. It's flexible for a reason. It's based off of you, how you're feeling that day, how you're doing, right? Do you want to stop directly at 5? Or do you think, another hour of work would be beneficial for tomorrow? And then maybe tomorrow I'll stop an hour earlier, right? Because my stop time is flexible. See what I'm saying? If it was firm and it was 5 o'clock, then I have to work till 5 o'clock every day, no matter what. I can't work over, I can't stop early. That would be an example of a non negotiable, right? It's not flexible anymore. It's a hard stop, not before, not after, right there. That's the line that I drew in the sand or the concrete or whatever, and it's not going to be passed. It cannot be crossed. Just have flexible boundaries as well as those non negotiable boundaries, the firm ones. Okay. And remember, there's going to be things that come up. Okay. Some common challenges. I kind of covered them already, right? You're going to be scared you're going to disappoint others, right? Or disappoint yourself. You might feel guilty for putting these boundaries in place initially. Okay. But think of it as an act of self respect. You're respecting yourself by communicating the boundaries, your boundaries. Okay. They're yours. You don't have to justify them to anyone other than yourself. Know why you're setting a boundary. That's going to be important. Okay. That'll help you overcome a lot of your resistance to setting it. Why am I setting this boundary? What is it going to do? What do I get out of it? That'll help you overcome some of that resistance. But also, another challenge is pushback or resistance from others. We kind of talked about that when I used the kid example, right? That we all can relate to. Our kids will always push our boundaries. People are that way too. So you need to know what boundaries you have wiggle room on or bending room, right? That are flexible and which ones aren't, and stick to it. Some benefits for boundaries, okay? Peace of mind, protecting your time, your energy, your focus, becoming more efficient, productive, right? Greater alignment with your vision and values. Yours, no one else's, yours. You'll be more in alignment with you. That is a benefit of having boundaries. When you know what you can handle and what you can't, what you're willing to put up with and what you're not, you're more in alignment with yourself. You're learning yourself too. It's self-awareness, right? So let me ask you a question. Drop this in the comments, right? Drop your answer in the comments. You know the drill. What is one boundary that you need to set to protect your legacy building journey? Drop that in the comments, okay? Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, invite others, right? Next week, which is going to be the final Friday in January. Oh my gosh. We're going to talk about, we're not going to talk about anything. We're going to do a legacy alignment check, okay? You're going to learn what that is, and we're going to do it in the next video, okay? Also, so I know I gave you guys the quiz, that's in the description, but also, if you haven't started your journey, but you're ready to, okay, download the Legacy Builders Success Guide. It's free. That link is in the description as well, okay? And it's on the website on the free resources page, the freebies page. That success guide, okay, is going to give you 7 powerful steps you can take to start making an impact on your journey, right? To start your journey and to make it impactful. 7 things that you can do. I'm not going to go into everything that it covers, right? But that is a resource for you. You can go on the website, read about it, download it. It's 100% free. Just like the quiz is free to take for you to figure out, where you are in your journey. That success guide is free as well. It's very helpful. It's very action oriented. So make sure you download that. And I will see you next week when we do our legacy alignment check. Okay, bye.